Here we are, Marco.
Here we are. We're at
No,
Starbucks.
we're at Starbucks in San Francisco.
There you go.
Yeah,
Look at how cute is this Starbucks here.
There you
the
go.
question is, which Starbucks?
Right
Hey,
across from Moscone.
Look at
that's where
that.
you are.
Hmm.
I heard the Starbucks is opening so many new stores that they just opened one in my house. I
There you
just
go.
woke up. It was right here. So glad to be
Nice.
here. And this
Nice.
is not a sponsored promotion, so I want to be clear
Right.
about that. But you are in a real Starbucks, really, and in front of Moscone. So
That's
that
right.
sounds like something is happening there again this year. What's going on?
Yeah, a little conference. RSA. It's finally back, so it's good. It's good to be back. It's good to see folks. It's been too long, and people are excited. It's a good vibe. A
Is,
lot of
is
people are out.
is the vibe pretty good, Michael?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. It's very positive. I think people are excited to be back. Um, see people. Talk about common issues that they're dealing with, and it's definitely a good vibe.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'm trying to think. So I think we actually met at the High Trust. Well, it's now called Collaborate. I don't know what it was called many years ago when we first met, but we met through a connection that I met at RSA conference. So it's a small world.
It is.
Leslie Kesselring, our mutual good friend,
Yep.
and it's been amazing, Michael, to see uh, High Trust grow over the years during this time that we've known each other, and your role grow. And I just think, obviously, High Trust is synonymous with healthcare. You do so much more in other industries from a risk management and security, compliance and controls perspective. Um, but rooted in healthcare, right? And healthcare has been a big topic for the last couple of years for obvious reasons.
It
And
has.
I mean, ultimately, it's about safety, whether it be health or financial safety or something else. And organizations have a responsibility, and an ecosystem has a responsibility to protect its employees and its partners and its users. And I mean, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm just going to say you guys do a great job at helping organizations get their head wrapped around that and get their hands on that. So maybe can you, I don't know, what do you got going this week? Who are you meeting with? What are you talking about? What's going on?
Yeah, a lot of hospital systems, a lot of cyber security insurance companies as well. I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of organizations are going through right now is associated with cybersecurity insurance. And Sean, we've talked about this, right? So the science of trying to get more favorable terms on cybersecurity insurance policies is challenging, right? And I think there's a lot of issues associated with that. As you know, I'm very opinionated and take a stance on a number of things. The underwriters don't know what they're doing, right? These aren't cyber folks. They don't know the right questions to ask, and they don't know the right way to evaluate organizations around cyber threats and risks. So as a result, a lot of organizations are dealing with negative outcomes from that, even though they may have invested appropriately in their cyber programs, their security programs, their privacy programs, because the underwriters and the carriers don't really understand the risk that they should be evaluating. So that's my next big challenge is to try and educate the underwriters, lean in, and help organizations get more favorable terms on their cybersecurity insurance. Because getting premiums that are 5, 10 times what they were a year ago is just not sustainable. So that's
Yeah,
what a lot of my meetings are this week.
nice. And so I don't know much what you have going on with the conference. So I would imagine others you're meeting with are at the conference. I don't know if you've gone in, seen any sessions or not, but uh, what's the tone of the conversation? Are things looking positive? Obviously, cyber insurance is something you're investing in. Is that a topic that you're hearing from others as well beyond your own meetings?
It is, yeah, yeah. There's actually a lot of sessions that are focused on that. I would say that the tone is generally positive, but topics that we all hear about, like supply chain, vendor risk management, definitely seems to be a theme that a lot of organizations are worried about, and they're industry agnostic issues, right? So it's the age old. I've got a good handle on my own shop in terms of what I'm doing, but when it comes to business partners and third parties, I'm worried. I don't know what I don't know. And we're not just talking about delivery, but we're talking about cyber threats and risks. So there's a lot of sessions and a lot of conversation around third parties and vendors.
So this year, they always have a theme, right? I mean, being most technical in the beginning, in the first year's RSA, then we went towards the human
Right.
element, and this year is transform. So I feel like that's a word that it pretty much you can put is that like piece of the puzzle that you can fit anywhere you want. It's kind of like I'm missing one piece. Let me put it there. Do you feel there is actually really that meaning of the word transform that after this 2 year of pandemic, even smaller company maybe are really embracing? Like it's not just a word anymore that you just place in the conversation, but it's really happening.
I actually don't. I don't
There you
think it's
go.
happening. Yeah. Um,
Tell me
you
more.
know, I think it's been introduced as an idea, and it's a good idea. But I think a lot of individuals, right, people and organizations haven't defined what transform means to them yet. They've embraced the idea, right? So they've certainly embraced the idea. Nobody's transforming. I mean, we are at the same place we were 2.5 years ago from a cyber perspective, if not worse, right? So a lot of organizations have not transformed, and rightfully so, right? I mean, we were dealing with a lot of societal related issues, and I don't know that organizations really had the vision to transform over the last couple of years. But the idea is there. People are leaning in, and I think they're trying to define what it means to them and to their organizations. And my perspective around transform, Sean and I have talked about this a lot, is this concept of rationalizing what's most important from not just a people standpoint, but from a cyber standpoint as well. So, we've spent years focused on building information security and privacy programs and paying attention to compliance and making sure we're doing 500 different things within our programs and controls, et cetera. And the reality is we need to triage. We need to understand what's most important from a risk standpoint. That doesn't mean that compliance and frameworks and all those things aren't important. They are. But I think what most organizations are realizing, and when you talk to, some of the CISOs I'm talking to here, but like Omar, Sean, right, from Highmark, so they'll tell you it's all about rationalizing. There's three things that we need to get a handle on, first and foremost, and that's MFA, it's ransomware, and it's phishing. Those three things existed 3 years ago, and they still exist today, if not even greater, right? So it's rationalizing and triaging to understand what are organizations doing to address those threats, first and foremost, and then look at, are we compliant with standards and requirements, right? So it's about being, we like to call it the threat adaptive, right, from an organizational standpoint. How do you make sure that you're threat adaptive and staying on top of what the most common cyber threats are?
Yeah, great points, Michael. And Marco and I had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman who's deeply involved in delivering or bringing telehealth to market.
Yep.
And and also with him was the former CEO of Kaiser, and we had a very philosophical conversation around. We didn't use the word transformation, but just this idea that technology can change healthcare,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of promise there, but the transformation isn't just about the technology. And you and I have talked about this as well. There's a human element, which you mentioned,
Yep.
but it's also the culture within the company, the culture of the patients being willing to and able to use the technologies,
Mhm.
and there's tons of economic stuff, insurance and payers and providers and accessibility and all this stuff kind of wraps around it. So I know you speak with a lot of organizations, some that are very progressive and advanced. Omar, you mentioned John Houston is another one, another gentleman we speak to quite often. Any thoughts, and maybe, and I don't know if you see anything this week as well, where the transformation, even if it's not being done yet, is perhaps being talked about in a way that's beyond the technology, or are we still rooted in technology? I guess it's a long-winded question.
Yeah, no, I think to bring it back to Marco's point, are you seeing transformation actually happen? So the positive, I would say, coming out of the pandemic is that when you think about care delivery and hospital systems, a lot of people leaned in to this concept of care delivery and bringing it back to patients. And look, I mean, for those 2 years, technology didn't matter, right? Whether it was there or not, it was about delivering the care and saving people's lives. So I do think that that is still with us, and a lot of the conversations I have, take Mayo as an example, right? Mayo Clinic. I mean, that's ingrained in their culture. It's all about care delivery, and everything that they do is focused on the patient. Um, so I do think that that was kind of rebooted over the last couple of years, which is good. It's not just about technology. And it's funny because a lot of the conversations we were having 3 years ago were about data. How do we get better data? How do we get better outcomes? Right. It was all about outcomes, and that kind of went away the last couple of years. And it was a far-reaching idea, similar to cyber. We went into a triage mode, and it was all about how can we care for patients, save as many lives as we can, set up tents and parking lots of hospitals, right? And I think that is what's at the core of a lot of health delivery systems, and it's still part of the conversation today. So a lot of the conversations I have as it relates to technology, Sean, to your point, is how do we get better data so we can deliver better care? And if you think about like interoperability, TEPCA, right, a lot of the things that are going on in that space, that's what a lot of hospital systems are focused on. The most important position in a hospital system, in my opinion, in the next 5 years is going to be a CIO. And not for the traditional reasons that you would think, but because this concept of transformation, automation, leveraging more technology is going to be necessary to get better care delivery.
And this is a great point, and I'm going to reconnect again with the human element, right? Because that's the one I really understand, and what I really got from this conversation that Sean mentioned is the fact that we were talking about telehealth, and we're like the technology is there. People just on one side there's a culture of the the caregiver that are embedded into a certain mindset on how they deliver. They've always delivered that way and they need to change the culture. And then there is that by changing their culture, we need to change the culture of the patient. So again, I'm just saying it's all about the human element. And a lot of this transformation need to happen right there. So as we wrap these, your view for maybe the next theme of RSA conference. Let's see if we can put like few name in the hat that maybe they can pull it out from. Do you think it needs to go, and I know the answer, but more human? And what kind of the human conversation you want to hear about culture? I mean, you talk about a CEO that can change the culture of a company, but it's not going to happen in 1 year. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Marco. So I think it definitely needs to go more toward the human element. I mean, look at what you guys do every day, right? I love it, the intersection of society and cybersecurity. Um, what's the term that we've been using, Sean? The fog of more, right? So there's so much out there, and RSA is a great example, right? I mean, it's so full of security vendors, cybersecurity vendors, and people trying to sell services. And Sean and I have talked about this on a couple other events. The fog of more is an issue, and people are not focused on people. They're focused on solutions. They're focused on technology. And the reality is you need to be more focused on behaviors and people. So I think as RSA continues to evolve, which I know it will, there should be a movement toward behaviors, right? So individual behaviors. How do people behave? How do they react? What drives people? And that is going to help us identify where some of the opportunities are as it relates to cybersecurity. But we really need to focus on the behaviors of people and understand those further. I mean, not to sound like a psychologist, but I mean that's what we need to understand. And we're all people. I mean, that's not that hard to understand and identify. But we tend to look the other way and not really lean into what drives people's behaviors.
Well, I'm going to do the last comment and then I'm going to leave Sean comment. But I want to bring in this important thing. I'm reading this biography, well, not biography, but this story about Pixar animation. And it's written by Ed Catmull, which was the original CEO that pretty much made the company with Steve Jobs what it is, and John Lasseter. And they were always thinking like how the story is what is the most important thing. And then he realized it's actually the people, because if you have good people, then you have good stories. And you can have the best story you can, but if you cannot make it visual and entertaining and emotional, you can't do anything. So it doesn't matter. My point is, it doesn't matter where you look in what industry. Companies are made of people. And in this case, the story will be the technology. So let's put it together. And I think that's the most important message.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And with that, I guess we're calling you a person, Marco, or are you technology?
I'm a story. I just made it up every day. I just go against what I just said.
Nice one.
No,
I think this is an important point, and yeah, I think as you both were talking there, I was just thinking that we kind of need to transform what success means, right?
Yep.
Success doesn't just mean that we have a well-funded security program with the right controls in place, with as few breaches and loss of data as possible. It's that we have a business that functions in a way that meets its objectives, whether it be protecting patients and giving better care, to successfully managing people's wealth for a financial institution. And the the security program and risk program and compliance all those things need to support that. And I think for me, transforming the definition of success in that way may help us in some way. Of course, keeping in mind the human element, as you both said. So, well, it's great to see you, Michael. I'm glad you're there
You
and
too, guys.
enjoying the
Yeah.
conference and having some good meetings and some good conversations, driving things forward. That's what we need to do. If we sit
Yeah.
back and just watch, it could be an interesting show. But when we get involved and help shape shape that story and share our own behaviors and guide others to behave in perhaps a better way. I think we're all better off for that.
Agreed. We're back, baby. We're back.
Yeah, well, we decided to do it this way, but I'm really tempted every time that we talk to someone there like you to get in the car and drive up. It's only 4 hours away. I can still make it.
You can make
So
it.
I'm thinking
I
about
got I got an extra seat at my dinner reservation tonight, so come on up.
it. I'll take into consideration. Although I think
There
we
you
got
go.
too much going on from here. But
Right.
Michael, so good to see you, and I really hope next time it's gonna be at the dinner table. I would love
Yeah.
that.
You
Yep.
too, guys.
Keep well. Virtual hugs to everyone you see that we know, and yeah, wishing you good success this week and great connections. And thanks for everybody for listening to this live stream from during RSA conference. Connect with Michael if you have a question for him. Stay tuned to all of our coverage. itspmagazine.com/RSAC is where you'll find it all, including this stream. Have a good week, everybody. Thanks again, Michael. See you, Marco.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.